Is Warhammer The Old World actually coming out this year? And if not, what's going on? So I know this topic has sort of been discussed a little bit, but I just want to take an overview of what's actually happened with the Warhammer Old World stuff, and let's see if we can sort of find any patterns or anything that would make sense. So for the absolute longest time, we were getting maps and then we started getting artwork, but basically we were having articles very inconsistently, I mean like very many months in between. And you know what? That's all we were getting. We're getting absolutely no indication that the game was coming anytime soon. However, in April this year, things sort of started to change a little bit. Now, whilst we didn't actually get new models at this point, we did learn about the base size, right? We learned about the changes to the Bretonians. We learned that the bases for the mounted cavalry was likely going to get bigger. We learned that the Bretonian formation was coming back. We learned quite a few things, specifically that the base was going from 20 mil to 25 mil for pretty much all like ranked infantry. We actually started getting actual information in April this year of what was actually coming. Now we might have had little tidbits before that, but it started to ramp up this year. And then at the end of April, we actually started seeing our first miniatures, right? So we saw the new Tomb King and we saw the new Bretonian Paladin. And you've got to say, you know, I mean, you can like them all, like not, it's up to you, I guess, but I personally like them. But we started seeing miniatures at that point, and we were getting a little bit excited. I think this was actually Warhammer Fest, right? Some people were a little bit disappointed we didn't see more, but it's okay. More information started to roll in. We eventually got the list of core factions. For anybody who's not familiar with seeing this list, the other factions generally are getting information. They are getting army lists. They're just going to be PDFs. It sounds like these guys are going to get actual like proper books or be in the main book or something. You can see here are the other factions if you're so interested. Interesting one is Chaos Dwarfs. Then we started to actually get rules, you know? We actually started getting information. We got interesting stuff about falling back, breaking the enemy, and how magic was going to get moved from being its own phase to being in every phase. Very, very nice, very interesting. And then finally, just you know, just a week ago or so, or whatever, I can't actually remember how long ago it was, but it was relatively recent. We had this one, the Bretonian Damsel Elise Ducard. And I've got to say, this miniature, I mean, it's causing a bit of divide on the internet. I think a lot of people understand that it's beautiful. It's just maybe you know, I don't know, a lot of people are doing like getting figurines or something and being like, look at this. And it is what it is, right? So we've seen 3 official miniatures. We've also actually seen the sprue for what appears to be like a Pegasus Bretonian, like champion or something like that. Obviously, I don't have that to hand right now, but we have seen that. It looks interesting in its own way. And then the question is, what's next? What's happening? Now, there is a bit of a theory about this. So basically on YouTube, Games Workshop are doing like a weekly thing where they're doing 40 years of Warhammer, and every week they're posting a video which is about a model that has been released in this 40 years. Now, you might think this doesn't mean anything because, you know, it's 40 years, it all makes sense. However, if you sort of track every week that they are doing it, and we are up now on number 33. If you continue that trend, the last one will be on the 25th of October. So some people are saying it'll get released then. Now, I'm getting a little bit less sure about that. On Facebook, what's happened is a lot of people have been asking, and I think the last communication from Games Workshop is the classic, it's still some ways out. Now, it's still some ways out is very vague, obviously. It sort of suggests it's not immediately imminent, but it could be a very wide time frame. That could be anywhere from like 2 months to 2 years. However, I think with all of the progression that we've seen, the fact that we're now starting to see miniatures, unless they are really going to like draw this out, it does sort of feel like we're ramping up to a release sort of soon-ish. Now, I'm getting less confident that it's going to be this year, but it might be that it gets announced this year. Like maybe we actually start seeing the full box on the 25th of October, something like that. That would be a nice conclusion. And the reason I sort of feel like that makes sense is next year is where we should be getting a new Age of Sigmar edition, I think. Generally, that typically falls a year after 40k. So, I mean, that might not be the case. It might be the case. But at some point, you have to question, where are they actually going to fit this in? Now, there's been a couple of other different rumours. For example, there was one that sort of had a recent rumour that had the list of box sets that was going to get sold at Christmas. And on there were some Bretonians and Tomb Kings for the Old World. Now, if that's true, then you'd have to release the game before that, obviously, because it wouldn't make any sense. The ultimate endpoint of this video, and I'm sorry to sort of string you along, is that we simply don't know. There's not really enough evidence right now. However, I feel like obviously we're getting closer, okay? We had many years of just seeing maps. We are obviously approaching a zenith where they are ready to talk about it. We've seen 3 miniatures right now. Presumably they will all be in the starter box, or not really a starter box, the launch box. We also had some miniatures getting removed from the store, which some of them will probably be used in Warhammer The Old World, so that sort of suggests they're repackaging those. If I was Games Workshop, I wouldn't necessarily want to be discontinuing stuff that I was bringing back without having a shortish gap between. You don't want to have stuff just left on the shelf for no reason or left in the warehouse for no reason. So while GW are a little bit hard to predict, I do feel like they might be aiming for a release before the end of this year. Now that could be some absolute copium, just, you know, dreamland stuff, but there's definitely a ramping up. The 25th of October would be a perfect time to announce it at the end of the 40 years. That would be beautiful. And as I said, if it's not this year, then sadly we might have to wait till the end of next year, because I think the Age of Sigmar new edition will probably take center stage next summer. So a whole lot of like wild speculation there, that where we actually don't know anything. But when you're covering a game that we know we're getting like teasing information every now and then, it's a little bit hard to do. One thing they definitely should do is release the full base list. I know that people would probably like kick off because there'll be some units that don't even have a base and they'll be like, are these dead, and all that kind of stuff. But it would be a lot easier for people trying to make their armies right now. Now, obviously in GW's head, they're like, well, we don't want you to make your army right now. We don't want you to rebase right now. And that's a little bit weird. Obviously, if you've got the army and you're just rebasing, then they're just sort of holding you, not hostage, because that sounds a little bit harsh, but you know what I mean? They're just sort of holding that information away from you, and then you're going to have to do a lot of hobby in a short period of time. But if you're like me, I bought some of the Dark Elf stuff from the Cities of Sigmar. I sort of can base my infantry because I know they're going to be on 25 mils, but you know what? I want the official Games Workshop bases, but they're very expensive because nobody's really selling them anymore for a reasonable price. So I have to buy sort of a third party, which isn't the end of the world, but you know, if I want to build them right now, that's what I got to do. And then if it comes to my chariot, like what am I putting that on? I don't know. Do I put it on anything? Do I just leave it? Probably should just leave it off until I know. Either way, just give us the base size. God damn it, give us the base size, GW. Just do it, and do it soon. We'll love you forever. And then release the game this year and we'll love you even more. You're going to take our money anyway, so you might as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I know there wasn't really much substance in this. Like, I'm sorry, it is what it is. But you should definitely have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.